Let's start at the beginning because you just graduated from college. You went into the W-2 world. Would you have a finance background, right? I saw where you were FINRA certified. Tell us a little bit about the W-2, man. What made you realize, okay, I like this real estate thing.
Mhm.
I'm gonna go at it full time.
For sure. So what that bio doesn't actually mention is I actually spent the year as a coach prior to
Oh
moving into
wow.
finance.
Okay.
So just like a typical, student athlete, didn't really have any prospects lined up after school.
I
Didn't
can
do
agree
an
with you
intern.
there.
Yeah, didn't really do any internships or anything. So lucked out. I had a buddy who hooked me up with a Division II coaching job up in Massachusetts. I'm from New York, born and raised, went to school in Long Island, and went up there for a year, tried it out because you don't have a job. You got to try something, and it's better than flipping burgers at McDonald's. So try that for a year. Really liked the coaching part of it, but because you get paid so little, you have to have a second or a third job. So
Right.
I did
Yep.
youth coaching on the side, and that I did not like because it's glorified babysitting is basically what it was, and just wasn't for me. I saw 5-10 years down the road, and I was like, this. I just think I'm going to be unhappy. So I said, let me change now. So moved back to New York. Still had a part-time job coaching in college, and then also got another part-time, full-time job as a cold caller for a stock brokerage in Rockville Center. That's the finance company. Just worded a little bit differently for the bio.
Okay.
Um, and eventually got licensed after several months. But while I was at the job, I quickly realized, what it really meant to be a stockbroker and, kind of what that world is. And, it's not anything to the degree you see in Wolf of Wall Street or Boiler Room anymore, but
Dang
there's
it. I
still,
was hope that was the case.
there's
So
still
you
some, there's still some strong echoes. I mean,
Yeah,
it's a world where, at least where I was, I can't speak for everybody,
sure.
obviously, but where I was, it was very much, you know, what can my client make me, not what can I make for my client. And it was very much about, how many commissions can I rack up from this person before they close an account.
Mm.
And that was just ass backwards wrong. And I was just like, okay, that's the pits. It actually hit me one day. My aunt, you know, bless her, asked if it would help if she could roll her. It was some retirement account that she had in a stockbroker's account. She said, if I gave it to you, would that help you at work? And I was like, no, don't give it to me. Don't do that. I mean, no offense to her. She's not also an accredited investor, so it wouldn't have worked anyway. But at that point, I was like, I don't even want to take your money because I'm afraid I'm going to lose it all. And my bosses aren't going to care that it's my aunt. So I said no. And then from there, I was like, okay, long time coming. This is the wake up call. You got to get out. Luckily, right at that same time, my mom and my cousin bought a flipping course. So that was
Okay.
my introduction into real estate. That was January 2016. For that, I knew nothing. The example I always give is I thought asbestos was a type of mold. So I literally, yeah, it's funny. People who really know their stuff when they get a really good giggle out of that.
Yeah.
Some people just give like a little chuckle or two, and like, okay, their hands were never in the weeds too much.
Yeah.
Not that I really was. I've never really been the hammer swinging person. But quickly learned that wasn't the case. So literally, absolutely nothing. So I think, a lot of people I talk to say they don't have, the knowledge, and how do they do it? And it's really not that hard, because if I can do it, anybody can do it, because I knew nothing. So, the next few months was, ramping up knowledge. Then it was, nights and weekends, still worked for the stockbroker company and trying to flip houses on Long Island, and flat out struggled. Never bought a home, never put one under contract, never flipped one. Didn't even, put one under contract and fuck it up. It just
Yeah.
flat out never happened. Just never found a deal that even made sense on paper. So we decided to, instead of trying to continue to bang our head against the wall, make a change and try to get into the tax deed side down in Philly, and then eventually moved into the small multi and then the large multi. I won't go into too much because you're asking more about the W-2 stuff.
No, it's all good, man.
Yeah, but just quick background of how I got into it. But yeah, from the W-2 side, it was just the lack of flexibility and freedom was the largest thing for me. And that's something that's changed dramatically now. And in the last year, it's something I've really placed a high value on, because I've got a lot of friends that are, same age, similar age, that, for one reason or another, don't like the job they're in. And there's not much they can do because they're tied to this, revenue stream. They're only
Yeah.
one. and they might be looking for other jobs, and there might not be, or might be reasons they don't want to do it. And it could just be the boss, it could be the job, it could be the location, could be the flexibility, could be the hours. It's a number of different things, and it's tough to change that when you're tied to it and you're not really working for yourself.
Yeah.
And that was it for me.
That's incredible. I think it says a lot about you as a person to not want to take your, you said it was your aunt's money?
Yeah.
Your aunt's money, because that could have made you look good in front of your boss, I'm sure. But, I think you had enough wits about you to say, my boss doesn't care where this is coming from.
Yeah.
So I think that's kudos to you for doing that, and kudos to your parents or whoever raised you, because that's a testament to them.
I guess they did an all right job, right?
Yeah, they did an okay job. Yeah. What was the flipping course that you took?
It was Fortune Builders.
Okay, cool. I'm familiar with them. Just know of them.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So almost people have either a really good experience with them or really bad.
Yeah. So the problem we had with it, and the reason we failed was twofold to flip a house. Was one, the program, from my experience for 8 months or whatever, was designated around like quick calculations for renovation dollars, purchase, holding costs, etc. I think it probably worked great in other parts of the country, just not New York City, Long Island,
Gotcha.
LA, Miami, because they were trying to beat down our throats that, a brand new kitchen cost $10,000, and everybody there that owned the home was like, you're never getting a brand new kitchen for $10,000.
Yeah.
It's going to cost you $25,000, and, roofs and your holding costs. And so, yes, that didn't work. But I also know that if we were determined to make it work, we could have taken all those, what's the word I'm looking for? The strategies and the systems and everything, and we could have adapted it to fit to our local area. So, it's not, I'm not going to sit here and just blame them, because that would be silly and foolish. It's on us as well. And instead of, we saw the problem and we said, all right, instead of trying to make this work where we have, we basically have no experience. We paid for an education. Difference between knowledge/education and experience, two very different things. So we have no experience. We have the knowledge, but we have to adapt the knowledge, but we don't have the experience to adapt the knowledge. So what we decided was, hey, let's find either someone in flipping or someone in another area that we can learn from and piggyback off of, and either contribute, our time, our capital, or other resources to get our foot in the door. And the way we ended up doing that was we lent money as a hard money loan to a flipper in Pennsylvania. Through that, his cousin is John, who's one of the founders at Toro, where I work now. And he was the one that was going to introduce us to the tax deeds in Philly. Tried it. So we drove down, me and my cousin, drove 50, 60, 70 properties and just hated it instantly. It was just super rough, super long hours. He was about to have his first kid. So we were just like, this isn't, again, just saw the writing on the wall. It wasn't going to work. Came back, sat down with John, just saying, hey, thank you, but, here's why it's not going to work. We really, really appreciate it. And while we were talking, towards the end, he was raising money for an 8-unit property in Covington, Kentucky. And he was like, I know you guys want to do your own thing. I get it, but would you consider investing? And we kind of said, I don't know, let us think about it. And then as we thought about it more and more, we were like, hey, this is similar to, giving a hard money loan. Let's invest passively, and let's see if we can just arrange something where we pick his brain, or it's coffee, it's, Zoom calls or Skype calls, whatever it is. So we came back to him and said, hey, can we just, jump on a phone call, coffee once a week, every other week? And he said, sure. So we invested passively in that, just started to getting together more and more and more. And then the four of us just had really good synergies. So we started that meetup group. Really, John did the first one, and then we brought it together that was at a bar, and we brought it into a hotel to make it more educational. So we did that every month. We then partnered on another 17 units in the same area as a joint venture. And then we joint ventured on an 82-unit property in Jacksonville, Florida. But right around the time we started that 17-unit property, I was ready to quit my job full time. I hated it. It was long hours. It was just didn't sit well with me, like fundamentally. I had to dress up every day, which I hated. Now I get to wear jeans and a t-shirt, which is fantastic. It's just a lot of things I didn't like. I'll never say I was depressed, because I think that would be an insult to people that actually struggle with
Actually
that.
impressed. Yeah.
But I was definitely downbeaten. I put on a ton of weight. I stopped going to the gym. I stopped doing things. And I was just like, I looked at myself and I was like, you got to get the fuck out of here. So
Yeah.
ready to quit. Luckily, just sitting down with John one day, he had actually worked for the same people I was working for, just at a different company. So we were just talking about it and he got it. So it was like, venting, but he was also like, I get it. I was like, I really want to do this full time, but the flipping didn't work out, blah, 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 blah. He was like, well, me and my partner are actually looking to bring somebody in to help us out on the side. And he's like, is that something you'd want to do? So I was like, fuck yeah. And
Yeah.
it's like, all right, let's pump the brakes a little bit, let's figure out how this is going to work. So I think it was like a week or two later, ended up quitting, ended up moving over full time, helping them out. And, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that, I'm not an employee, but it's more of a entrepreneur-esque role where it's, kind of my own hours,
Yeah.
my own responsibilities. Right now my role is basically the Florida region of our portfolio, acquisitions, asset management, equity, debt, insurance, broker relationships, investor relationships, the whole nine, basically, picking up the pieces where they fall down. So, it's definitely a hybrid of the two. I'm not going to sit here and say, hey, I bought 2,600 units or, I raised money for 2,600 units. I'd just be lying and I would found out really quick, but it's definitely a hybrid between the two.